A city burns as a young man named Derek gets his call to action. His ally, Sylvie, lays out the high-stakes rescue mission. Derek casually dismisses her warnings with a drink. He leaps from the building, ready for another day at the office. He lands with a smirk, reminding her he's the hero here. Power surges through him as he prepares for a simple in-and-out job. Sylvie, however, is not impressed by his charming arrogance. With a surge of purple energy, she tears open a gateway. Derek armors up, lightning crackling as he readies for the fight. He steps into the void, confident he'll be back in time for dinner. But on the other side, only fire, ash, and failure await him. The mission was a catastrophic trap, a battle against impossible odds. Derek stares in horror, wondering how it all went so wrong. Surrounded by monsters, he desperately protects a fallen comrade. Years later, the memory of that day still echoes in the darkness. An older, scarred Derek reflects on what was meant to be a simple mission. He laments his old habit of trying to play the hero. In the memory, his team is overrun, screaming for him to escape. They were forced to choose between saving themselves or their friends. He truly believed he was strong enough to save them all. Young Derek carves a path, determined to rescue one last person. His older self can only look back on that foolish hope with regret. He reaches a wounded soldier, promising a way out of the inferno. Supporting his friend, he pushes toward the shrinking portal. But the promise of safety was a lie he told them both. In a flash of violence, his comrade is torn away from him. Derek can only watch, his world shattering in an instant. He turns to see his only escape route about to vanish forever. The narrator seethes with regret, questioning his own actions. With no other choice, Derek makes a final desperate sprint for the light. He screams in defiance, refusing to accept his fate. His hand pushes through, grasping for a world now lost. But the gateway slams shut, severing his only connection. In that instant, his entire world shatters. He stares at what's left, unable to process the loss. Trapped in the void with nothing but the echo of his failure, the memory jolts the older Derek awake, gasping for air. He collapses, lost in a sea of self-blame and regret. Was it his weakness, or was he betrayed from the start? He dismisses the thought, clinging to his weapon for comfort. He tells himself his allies are still searching for him. He waits for a rescue that will never ever arrive. Even the marks he carves into this prison fade away. Turns out endless solitude is great for a training montage. He hones his skills, his weapon an extension of his will, meditating, practicing, training, anything to keep from breaking, all driven by the faint hope of one day seeing the sun again. But then, after an eternity, something finally changes. A strange alert pierces the silence of his exile. A system error flashes before his eyes. The host is moving out of range. It warns him. He panics, realizing his powers are tied to the system. The connection is failing. His only lifeline is being cut. And just like that, the system connection is lost. He begs, pleading not to lose the one thing he has left. He rages against his prison, but the void is unbreakable. His own vitality now turns against him in constant agony. The cracks in his sanity grow wider with each passing moment, but the prison around him remains perfectly whole. Finally, after ages of struggle, he simply gives up. He let himself slip quietly into the darkness, but after an eternity, the void finally called back. He looks up startled from his long despair, and for the first time in ages, he answered. A sound echoes through the nothingness, a crack. He wonders if his mind has finally broken, but the reflection in his eye tells him it's real. A fissure in his prison, and it's not closing. A surge of power reignites his will to escape. He doesn't care where the path leads. He strikes the crack with all his might. Anything is better than remaining in this hell. But something is waiting for him on the other side. A powerful blast throws him back violently, his one chance for freedom met with pure force. While that definitely didn't feel like a hallucination, a monstrous creature roars from beyond the breach. He notes its greeting is a little aggressive. The beast's eyes glow with malevolent intent, so Derek decides to teach it some manners. Besides, he's curious to test his system-less strength. He launches himself at the beast ready for battle. The two forces collide in a storm of energy. He weaves through its attacks, barely staying ahead. But the creature's power is overwhelming. He's thrown back, the impact rattling his armor. The monster looms over him, victorious for now. Now he's pretty sure this isn't a dream. He notices something he hasn't seen in ages. For the first time in forever, he's bleeding. He decides to go all in 100%. The pain clears his mind, reminding him he's alive. The beast prepares another devastating energy attack, but Derek plants his feet, ready for a counter. After decades of being trapped, he's not backing down. The monster roars, unimpressed by his defiance. It unleashes a torrent of energy, a final desperate move. Derek flies straight into the heart of the blast. He has surpassed his limits long ago. The two forces meet in a cataclysmic explosion. He screams a challenge. Kill him or get out of his way. With a final push, he slices through the attack. He uses the debris as stepping stones to his target. Looks like the old Derek is back in business. And with one final strike, he finds his way out. He soars past the beast, leaving it behind in the void. He laughs, finally seeing the sun once more. After an eternity of darkness, he is finally free. But a short while earlier in this very forest, a young boy realizes he's wandered too far from home. His panic leads to a misstep and he tumbles down a cliff. He lands hard, bruised, and terrified. He finds himself trapped at the bottom of the ravine, and, of course, he's not alone down there. The boy can only scream as the beast closes in. He scrambles backward, his foot slipping on the loose rock. The creature lunges, its claws ready to strike. He falls into the water, crying out for help. He surfaces gasping, somehow still alive. Then he looks up and sees a strange light in the sky. A column of light and energy crashes into the water below, and from the spray emerges Derek, landing before the terrified child. The boy can't believe his luck has gotten this much worse. He just escaped a wolf only to run into an armored demon, but a strange alert appears before Derek's eyes. An invading system has been detected, and he has no idea what it means. Suddenly, a massive purple vortex tears open the sky above. Derek is caught in its pole, dragged upward against his will. The boy can only watch in stunned silence. A powerful beam of energy erupts from the portal. His grand escape ends with him knocked unconscious on the ground. Nearby, the wounded beast shakes itself off, ready for round two. Its glowing eyes lock onto the helpless figure. The creature slowly approaches its unmoving prey. Derek's mind drifts back to the endless void. He remembers being trapped, stripped of everything he was. His very being was stretched thin, broken into fragments. He questions if his old life was even real. Was his system, his home, all just a dream, or was this shattered existence all he had ever known? He's jolted back to reality by the beast dragging him away. He groans, asking for 5 more minutes to sleep it off. The creature pauses, confused by its victim's lack of fear. Derek just laughs, complaining that its grip tickles. The beast roars, its patience finally worn thin. But in that instant, something in Derek's eyes snaps. With a surge of strength, he grabs the monster by its jaw. He effortlessly tosses it aside, stunning the watching boy. Derek looks around dazed and utterly lost. Then he smiles, calling the terrifying beast a puppy. He takes in his new surroundings, a forest of wither and rot, a place where life gives way to decay. Yet to his broken mind, it's all strangely beautiful. He casually tells his monstrous companion to quiet down. It sinks in that this strange new world is very real. He's even more shocked to find his system interfaces back, but it's been completely wiped, resetting him to level 0. With his stats intact, he hopes his skills are still there. He tries to summon a familiar wave of energy, but the attack fizzles out into nothing. Apparently, spamming the skill button doesn't help either. Instead, each attempt sends a jolt of pain through his head. He recalls the error message, invading system detected. He wonders if his old system somehow merged with a new one. Lost in thought, he tries to piece together how he even got here, but the snap of a twig breaks his concentration. He and his new friend turn toward the sound. It's the boy from before, now begging for his life. Derek is utterly confused by the kid's terror. The boy tearfully asks if he's not a man-eating demon. Derek strikes a pose, asking what part of him screams demon. His monstrous companion, however, seems eager to prove the boy right. Derek quickly scolds the beast for its poor manners. He introduces himself, and the boy hesitantly gives his name, Thomas. Derek asks about the boy's level, still calling him Tommy. He learns that in this world, the system only unlocks at age 13. To activate it, one must first kill a creature. A sudden cold realization dawns on both Derek and the beast. With a grim smile, he turns to his only companion, and in one swift, brutal motion, he secures his first kill. The beast lies still, its lifeblood staining the forest floor. He explains it was a necessary evil to protect the boy, and with that, the system notifications come flooding in. He laughs, a familiar rush of power returning to him. But then a different set of alerts catches his eye. A conflict between two systems plays out before him. He realizes the new system tried to overwrite his old one, but his original system held on, leaving him with two. Just then, a loud grumble breaks the tense silence. Thomas looks away, clearly embarrassed by his hunger. Derek asks the obvious, and the boy eagerly agrees. A roaring fire is quickly started for their meal. Turns out his first kill is also his first dinner. He offers the boy a drink to wash it all down. The kid chugs it like he's been lost for a week. He stops, realizing his manners have completely slipped. Derek ponders how to access his dormant original system. He decides to try buying a similar skill in the new one. The system detects a conflict and begins merging the skills. The process is anything but pleasant, sending him into convulsions. He brushes it off, though the pain was clearly immense. The result is a massive instant upgrade to his skill. He realizes his old skills might not be gone after all. They're just dormant, suppressed by the new system. He now has a path to becoming stronger than ever before. With a new plan in mind, it's time for a makeover. Nothing says trust like letting a kid give you a haircut on the move. He reminds Thomas of their deal, information for safe passage. The boy reluctantly agrees to uphold his end of the bargain. He begins to explain the rules of this strange new world. Thomas explains that people are taught to be grateful for the system, but he reveals the truth. It's a world ruled by a corrupt king. The nobles use their power to oppress the common folk. They even cheat the system to widen the gap between rich and poor. His anger builds as he recalls the injustice. It was the nobles who were responsible for the loss of his parents. A slip of the hand makes him panic, begging Derek not to harm him. Derek calmly jokes that he'll wait to see the final haircut first. He inspects the result and declares that Thomas gets to live. Phew. The next morning, the sun rises on their journey. Derek gently wakes the boy, telling him it's time to go. They finally arrive at the outskirts of a small desolate village. Derek asks which path leads to his home. Thomas points the way, saying he's from Raina's village. But as he speaks, his eyes fix on something in the distance. Derek immediately senses the shift in the boy's demeanor. Thomas leaps from his shoulders, sprinting toward a house in terror. Derek follows but stops short at the grim sight before him. The boy bursts through a broken door, screaming for someone named Jones. Inside, he finds the man he was looking for has already met his end. The villager lies motionless on the floor. Thomas stares in shock, his hope completely shattered. Derek places a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. He learns the man wasn't family, just a kind old man from the village. Thomas can't understand how this happened, as the man was nearly level 30. Derek, completely unimpressed, asks if that's supposed to be strong. The boy insists that at that level, nothing in the forest could touch him, but Derek leans against the door frame, a skeptical look on his face. He then reveals that the wolf he killed earlier was level 53. Thomas is stunned into silence, refusing to believe what he's hearing. He wonders if this is all that's left of the boy's home. Elsewhere in the depths of the forest, a strange energy stirs. A glowing green orb pulses with an unnatural power. It soon attracts the attention of a corrupted forest beast. The wolf cautiously approaches the strange source of magic. Its wounds suggest it's already been in a desperate fight for its life. It lunges, driven by instinct and hunger, but a skeletal figure erupts from the shadows to defend the orb. With a single brutal strike, it smashes the wolf to the ground. The very air seems to shudder from the display of dark power. The skeletal creature seems to relish its easy victory. How lovely! It stands revealed as a powerful lich, a master of this blighted land. But not long ago, this was a land of sunlight and peace. We see a young girl named Brandy struggling with a heavy basket. Her mother, Mallory, gently teases her about the load. Brandy proudly insists she's strong enough now that she's unlocked the system. Her mother smiles, patting the head of her clearly struggling daughter. As they walk, Mallory suggests asking her father for leather from his hunt. Brandy's eyes light up at the chance to level her leatherworking skill. Her mother adds that he might even let her help skin the animal. The girl's excitement immediately turns to absolute horror. She realizes what being a leatherworker actually entails. We flash back 2 weeks to the day she was to unlock her system. Her father, Travis, presents her with her very first monster to kill, a level 10 fluffy fox. I'm sure this won't be traumatizing at all. The deed is done, leaving the girl heartbroken and full of regret. Her mother consoles her, admitting her father could have picked a less adorable target, but their conversation is cut short by a sudden shared glance of terror. Travis bursts back into the village wounded and shouting a warning. He tells them to run, screaming that the village is under attack. Brandy rushes to her father's side, but he cuts her off. He tells her to trust her mother, his eyes filled with grim resolve. Travis turns to face the burning village, ordering his family to flee. With a final farewell, he sends them away to safety. The entire village is engulfed in flames, a grim backdrop to their escape. Brandy asks if her father will be all right, her voice trembling. Mallory forces a smile, promising that he and the chief are strong. They meet up with other survivors led by the village chief. The chief rallies the group, confident they can reach the next village. Mallory holds her daughter close, trying to offer a final word of comfort. But her words are cut short by a monstrous foot slamming into the earth. The chief's confident expression instantly turns to one of pure dread. A massive corrupted beast looms over him, its eyes glowing with hate. He's immediately taken down, proving his earlier speech was a bit premature. Mallory and the others can only watch in horror as their leader falls. Brandy is frozen in place, her world collapsing around her. The victorious monster snarls, its gaze now fixed on the survivors. It prepares to lunge as Brandy cries out for her mother. Mallory shoves her daughter forward, telling her to run. With a final desperate scream, she orders Brandy to escape. But the young girl is paralyzed by fear, unable to move a muscle. Mallory meets the beast's charge head on holding it back with her spear, but she's quickly overwhelmed as more creatures join the fray. Pinned to the ground, her only thought is of her daughter's safety. She resolves to hold them off just long enough for Brandy to escape. Brandy finally breaks free, running blindly through the forest with tears in her eyes. Her desperate flight ends as she collides with an armored figure. A voice from the shadows calmly asks if they need any help. It's Derek with Thomas, who yells that, of course, they need help. Our hero's timing is, as always, impeccable. Brandy looks up, her face stained with tears, and begs for their aid. Brandy clings to him, desperately pleading for his help. She begs him not to let her mother die. Derek calmly agrees with a simple, almost bored okay. He casually flicks a finger, sending a bolt of energy forward. The blast instantly dispatches the beast attacking Mallory. She can only stare in shock as the threat completely vanishes. He turns to the others, offering them the remaining kills for experience. Mallory screams back that they don't care about experience. With a smirk, Derek decides this is going to be fun after all. The remaining corrupted wolves lunge at him as one, but his eyes are cold, focused, and ready for the fight. He crushes one beast's paw beneath his armored boot. He effortlessly leaps over another's snapping jaws. A single energy blast takes out a third from a distance. His gauntlet glows, forming claws of pure energy. He becomes a whirlwind of motion tearing through the pack. He moves with a speed and grace they've never seen. A final brutal strike ends the last of the creatures. He lands surrounded by crackling blue light, the battle over. He stands over the fallen beasts, complaining it wasn't fun at all. He's unimpressed, noting how pathetically weak the wolves were. Brandy rushes to her mother, and they embrace in relief. Mallory comforts her, promising her father is strong. But she knows her husband is nothing compared to this stranger. She thanks Derek but demands to know who he is. He just says he's taking Thomas home and they can tag along. Thomas tries to remind him about their destroyed village, but Derek coldly states he only promised to escort the boy. He adds that their village is likely already gone anyway. What a great motivational speaker. A villager asks what's wrong with the forest, mentioning the Grace Falls. Derek dismisses the question with a simple, uninterested no. Thomas desperately pulls on his arm, pleading for them to go back. But Derek corrects him, stating it won't be we doing the fighting. He makes it clear that if anyone is going to help, it will be him alone. He reminds the boy of their contract, which didn't include saving strangers. He asks Thomas if he knows the secret to his survival. A dark memory flashes by as he explains he only ever relies on himself. He's learned the hard way not to go out of his way to be a hero. Every tragedy in his life came from sticking his nose where it didn't belong. Thomas can only grit his teeth in frustration. He yells back that, with Derek's power, he has a duty to help. Derek just scoffs at the boy's naive sense of justice. Thomas resorts to futilely punching his armor, getting absolutely nowhere. He finally breaks down screaming that Derek is just being a selfish jerk. As the villagers watch, Derek calmly agrees with the assessment. He explains that in a world where heroes die, it pays to be selfish. He effortlessly catches the boy's fist, ending the tantrum. He tells Thomas to get strong first, then he can play the hero. The boy glares back, his spirit not yet broken. Derek's expression softens as he ruffles the kid's hair. He then surprises everyone by lifting Thomas onto his shoulders. The boy is stunned, asking what on earth he's doing. With a new resolve, Derek declares they're going to save the village. Thomas is left speechless by the sudden change of heart. He stands amidst the embers, his world turned upside down once again. Meanwhile, Brandy's father, Travis, faces a monstrous corrupted bear. He plants his spear, his eyes glowing as he prepares for battle. The beast roars, its own eyes burning with corrupted energy. Travis meets its charge head-on, a shockwave erupting from the impact. He holds his ground, a lone defender against overwhelming power. Derek leads Thomas through the smoldering ruins of the village. He wanted the boy to see the grim reality of this world firsthand, a harsh lesson on what happens when you aren't strong enough. This was never a rescue mission. It was a recovery. Suddenly, Derek holds the boy back, sensing something ahead. A faint groan echoes from beneath the rubble of a collapsed building. His eyes narrow, focusing on the source of the sound. A survivor, the village chief, struggles to free himself from the debris. Thomas immediately sprints forward, ignoring Derek's warning. The chief is shocked to see him, warning him of the danger, but his gaze falls on the body of Brandy's fallen father. He laments that the man fought bravely, but his wounds are fatal. In fact, it seems no one from the village will survive. The chief desperately asks for a healer, knowing it's a futile hope. Derek considers his options, recalling a rare potion he possesses, but his cynical nature takes over. He refuses to play the hero. He won't save the man, but he can offer something else. He steps away, giving the family a moment for their goodbyes. Mallory can only watch in utter disbelief and sorrow. She clings to her husband, pleading for him to stay with them. With his last strength, Travis reaches for his daughter. He tells her to be strong and that he loves her. And with that, the light fades from his eyes forever. Brandy is left kneeling in the dust, her world shattered. Her mother's grief-stricken cry echoes through the ruins. Sometime later, they've left the burning village behind them. Derek states the obvious. It's time to get moving. But Thomas is still reeling from the loss he just witnessed. Derek offers some questionable comfort, telling him he'll get used to it. The chief grabs his arm, furious at his callous words. He demands to know who Derek is and what he wants. The chief questions why he should trust Thomas with a complete stranger. Derek remains silent, his expression cold and unbothered. But Thomas steps forward, surprisingly taking Derek's side. He explains that he understands loss all too well. He admits he's almost jealous they got to say goodbye. A memory shows a much younger Thomas waiting for parents who would never return. The small group of survivors continues their journey away from the ruins. Derek decides it's a good time to check his system notifications. He sees he's reached level 10 and can now choose a class. But as he scrolls through the options, his eyes widen in shock. These choices are far more powerful than anything he expected. The first is Shadow Brawler, a rare and deadly class. Next is Chaos Glaive, an epic class of pure destruction. Then Eternal Guardian, another epic class born from flame. Talk about analysis paralysis. He struggles to decide, peeking at the list of incredible powers. But then he stops, his breath catching in his throat. He looks back at the chief, a cold sweat breaking out. He trembles, staring at a final hidden option on the screen. Champion of the Void, an epic class born from his own personal hell. The description says he can never be trapped there again, for he is now a part of it. He recalls the endless expanse, the unrelenting hunger of his prison. It was not an ally or a teacher, but a brutal, unforgiving master. The memory of his own mind shattering echoes within him. The void had beaten him, broken him, and consumed him entirely. But in return for his suffering, it offered him absolute control. He wasn't just its prisoner. He was its chosen champion. With a surge of purple energy, he accepts his new fate. The power explodes from him as the chief, Leon, pulls Thomas back. They can only watch as Derek is consumed by the chaotic energy of the void. He answers the void's call, embracing his new power. A pillar of purple energy erupts, tearing through the sky. Leon shields Thomas, praying for salvation from the chaos. The energy subsides, revealing a changed Derek, now its master. He marvels at the incredible power now flowing through him. The beam of light serves as a beacon of his transformation. Thomas and Leon can only stare, unable to believe their eyes. Elsewhere, the survivors are startled by the sudden disturbance. The energy slams back to Earth, leveling what little remains. Derek looks up, realizing his new class came with a +1. From the energy, a monstrous void beast begins to form. He can't help but be impressed by the dramatic entrance. Leon turns to Thomas, demanding to know where he found this man. Mallory and Brandy can only watch, lost and confused. Derek is ecstatic, realizing he gets his very own summon. The beast crashes down, its sheer presence shaking the ground. He decides to name it Asher, which seems to get a reaction. He notes it's a bit smaller than the last one he fought, but it'll do. The others watch in terror, questioning Derek's sanity. But Leon realizes with dawning horror that Derek can control it. He immediately tries to teach his new pet to sit. Good luck with that. The beast responds by slamming him violently into the ground. The impact sends a shockwave across the ruined landscape. Thomas screams his name as Leon holds him back from the fray, but an armored hand rises from the dust, stopping the attack cold. Derek emerges fully armored and informs his pet their time together is over. Asher roars back, ready to challenge its new master. Bleeding but determined, Derek orders the others to flee. He summons a blade of pure energy as they run for safety. His skill fails to identify the beast, confirming it's not from this world. He recalls the last beast, realizing this one is on a whole other level. With no room for error, he rockets forward in a blur of purple energy. He dives toward his new pet, ready to teach it some obedience. The beast lunges with snapping jaws, meeting his charge with pure aggression. Derek counters with a blast of energy, holding the monster at bay, but he's stunned when it blocks the attack with nothing but its palm. The creature's sheer power forces him onto the back foot. Asher unleashes a devastating beam of concentrated void energy. The blast sends him flying, the force of it catching him completely off guard. He can't comprehend how something so massive can move so fast. Before he can recover, the beast is already preparing another attack. The beam carves a massive trench in the earth where he stood moments before. The impact rattles him to his core, the taste of blood now familiar. He collapses to the ground, completely outmatched by his own summon. He briefly considers playing dead, hoping it'll just get bored and leave. That's not happening. The beast begins a relentless, brutal assault. A system alert flashes as his health plummets into the danger zone. He activates his meditation skill, desperately trying to find an opening. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushes back, his blade glowing with power. But Asher simply catches the weapon in its teeth and shatters it. It swats him aside like an insect, his health dropping with every blow. Each strike is a hammer blow, pushing him closer and closer to the edge. From the sidelines, Thomas can only watch in tears as his protector is broken. Leon urges the others to flee, knowing there's nothing they can do to help. Asher gathers energy for a final decisive strike. Derek can only watch, knowing he's too slow to dodge this one. He realizes his regeneration skills can't possibly keep up with the damage. His health bar drains away, ticking down toward his inevitable end. The pressure becomes unbearable, his armor beginning to crack and shatter. But through the pain and chaos, his eyes lock onto a single point of focus. He dumps his points into a new skill, triggering a system merge. The process is excruciating, a scream tearing from his throat, but it allows him to dodge Asher's devastating ground slam. The merge is a success, instantly maxing out his new skill. His pet does not seem pleased by this sudden turn of events. With his weapon mastery upgraded, the very ground cracks with his power. He's back in the fight, now a blur of blue and purple energy. Derek soars through the air, a new spear of light in his hands. His eyes glow with renewed focus, the pain forgotten. He meets the beast claws head-on, a desperate struggle for dominance. He pushes forward, pouring every ounce of strength into the attack, but his blade stops dead, unable to pierce the monster's hide. He realizes the void is simply nullifying his power. How rude. So he decides it's time to fight void with void. He channels the very essence of his prison into his weapon. The two forces collide, master and summon, in a final brutal contest. The resulting blast tears through Asher's defenses. Derek is thrown back by the sheer force of his own attack. He lands perfectly, the battle finally at its end. With a weary breath, he admits that was actually fun. He stands victorious over his fallen pet as the sun begins to set. The system rewards him handsomely for taming his new friend. Elsewhere, a knock echoes in a lavishly decorated room. An attendant enters bearing urgent news for his mistress. A report from the crown details a void beast's energy signature. A red-haired woman finds the news of a dimensional monster. Interesting. With a cold expression, she gives a simple order. Send a hunter. Meanwhile, the weary villagers continue their trek through the forest. A woman looks back, her eyes widening in disbelief. Leon and the children have returned, battered but alive. The survivors reunite, their relief quickly turning to questions. But Leon can't bring himself to speak the grim truth. He clenches his jaw, the weight of his failure crushing him. A single tear escapes, a silent testament to their losses. Derek steps forward, delivering the harsh reality of their situation. The remaining villagers can only stare in stunned silence. Leon stands over the fallen, blaming himself for their fate, but Thomas sprints past, his eyes fixed on a familiar face. He throws his arms around Derek, relieved his protector is alive. The boy quickly pulls back, flustered but undeniably happy. Derek then turns to Mallory and Brandy, his tone softening. He reveals he saved her husband's body for a proper burial. Mallory is stunned by this unexpected act of kindness. She offers a heartfelt thank you, a small light in her grief. He simply nods, his stoic mask firmly back in place. That night, the survivors make camp under a full moon. They're warned to stay close to the fire as the forest is not safe. Leon keeps watch, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. His eyes burn with a quiet, grim determination. Nearby, Thomas finally asks the question on everyone's mind. Derek downplays the fight, claiming the beast just got bored and left. Thomas finds this hard to believe given the terrifying legends, but the reality of the battle was far more intense. Mallory backs the boy up, noting such a feat is unheard of. Derek just shrugs it off, suggesting he got lucky with a weak summon. He vows not to use that skill again, a clear understatement of the cost. He dismisses the legends as overrated, much to the others' disbelief. The next morning, Mallory rallies the survivors to continue their journey. With the sun rising, they set off toward the next village. But a small hand tugs on his, breaking his concentration. It's Brandy who asks if she can have some of the animals. She explains she overheard him talking about the creatures in his bracelet. Derek agrees, pulling a rabbit from his inventory with a flash of light. He hands it over, promising the larger ones later as she thanks him. He asks why she wants them, and she clutches the offering with a sad look. A memory flashes by of her father teaching her about the forest. She tearfully explains she chose leather working to make armor for the village. The memory of her father's proud, smiling face lingers. She wants to ensure no one else ever gets hurt again. Derek's resolve softens, and he tells her she can have them all. Elsewhere, a pompous guard taps his fingers, bored and annoyed. He complains about being stuck in this town without even a scented bath. The horror. He looks down at the survivors, refusing them entry without proper papers. Mallory, enraged, tells him to go find someone named Raina. The guard just smirks, enjoying the power trip a little too much. A villager turns to Leon, begging their former chief to intervene. But Leon is broken, questioning if he can even call himself a chief anymore. Brandy steps forward, pleading with the guard that they have lost everything. He smugly denies them entry, citing something called the Gracefall Decree. But Derek steps forward, his eyes glowing with a dangerous light. He asks who exactly would enforce that decree if he decided to break it. Mallory watches in alarm, realizing Derek is about to cross a line. The guard welcomes the challenge, eager for a fight to break his boredom. But Mallory grabs Derek's arm, warning him that killing a noble will only bring more trouble. The guard scoffs, disappointed that common sense has ruined his fun. The gates begin to close, shutting them out for good, but a new voice from inside demands to know what's happening. Two figures emerge, a noble named Wallace Gracefall and the village chief, Raina. Raina recognizes Mallory, asking why they're here after reports of smoke. Learning their village is gone, she offers her sincere condolences and welcomes them in. Raina puts the noble in his place, declaring the survivors are now under her protection. With a word of thanks, Mallory leads her people into their new temporary home. But Reina offers a quiet warning. The monsters in this town wear armor, not fur. She glances back at Leon, whose spirit seems to have been left in the ashes of his village. Wallace, the noble, is furious that his authority has been so openly challenged. Reina calmly tells him to finish his business and get out of her village. He threatens to crush them all, trying to intimidate her by mentioning her father. But the mention of family seems to be a sore spot for him too, as he quickly backs down. Derek watches them go, his contract with Thomas now officially complete. He tells himself he's only staying to gather information. "Sure you are, buddy," Reina calls out, offering him sanctuary within the village walls. Caught off guard by the kindness, Derek agrees to stay a while longer. But as he steps forward, a wave of unseen power washes over Reina. She breaks into a cold sweat, wondering what kind of aura this stranger possesses. Elsewhere, an elderly couple waits anxiously for Reina's return. The woman Delilah paces the floor, her patience worn thin. She snaps at her husband, unable to rest while her grandson, Thomas, is missing. The sound of the door opening finally breaks the tense silence. Delilah turns, demanding to know what could have possibly taken so long, but her words die in her throat as she sees who has returned with Reina. Thomas sprints into the room, his voice filled with pure joy. His grandmother rushes to meet him, her own tears finally falling. The boy closes his eyes, safe in her arms at last. The family is finally reunited, a small moment of peace in the chaos. Reina smiles, asking if this was important enough to wait for. Derek and Thomas share a quiet, knowing look, their journey together at an end. As the family catches up, Derek watches on a silent observer. Soon, the leaders gather to discuss the grim reality of their situation. Reina turns to Derek, acknowledging that he is the reason anyone survived. She bows her head, offering him the village's eternal gratitude. Thomas is finally reunited with his grandparents, enjoying a rare moment of peace. Derek brushes off the gratitude, telling them to drop the formalities, but Reina insists, stating it is a chief's duty to protect her people. Her tone shifts, her expression hardening as she gets down to business. She makes it clear that if he's expecting payment, they have nothing to offer. The village's resources are already stretched to their absolute limit. Especially with parasites like the noble Wallace draining what little they have. Derek just smirks, questioning if she really thinks he's here for money. He explains that Thomas already paid him back by helping him first. He then shifts the focus to the real issue, the corrupted forest. Reina leans in, demanding to know what he's learned about the threat. Derek reveals he has a theory based on his own world system. He tells them they're likely dealing with a dungeon break. He begins to explain the nature of dungeons, the lifeblood of the system. They are sources of immense power, treasure, and incredible danger. Each one is a self-contained world, a trial for those brave enough to enter. But when a dungeon is left unchecked or the system itself falters, it can rupture, unleashing chaos and monsters upon the world. Its corrupting energy seeps into the land, twisting everything it touches. This is the source of the blight that destroyed their home. Reina is skeptical, but Derek points out that new dungeons can appear. The old man Richard agrees, noting a remote dungeon could go undiscovered. The realization dawns on him. It's the only theory that fits the facts. Reina turns to him for confirmation, and he admits it's their only lead. She then asks Derek where he's from, hoping for more clues. He dodges the question, stating that now they know the problem, they must solve it. He tries to leave, suggesting the nobles outside can handle the mess. Classic Derek. But Reina calls out, stopping him in his tracks. She admits they have nothing to offer him in return for his strength. But with a look of desperation, she asks for his help one more time. Derek lets out a long, weary sigh. He turns to leave, flatly refusing her plea. Thomas can only look on, his hope fading. But Derek calls out to the boy, telling him to follow. He says he needs to find Brandy to give her the rest of the pelts. And with that, the two of them are gone. Richard admits that Derek has a point about his priorities, but Reina wishes he wasn't so brutally honest about it. She turns to Leon, asking for his assessment of the stranger. She needs to know if this man is an ally or a threat. Leon considers the question, his expression grim. He admits he can't figure Derek out at all. Reina leans in, sensing there's something more. He adds the small detail that the man can summon the void, casually. Meanwhile, Derek and Thomas walk through the village streets. He asks the boy where they might find the young leather worker. A sudden shout from a nearby alley catches their attention. They find Brandy struggling with a noblewoman over a large pelt. The woman easily rips it from her grasp with a smug smile. She taunts the fallen girl, daring her to retaliate. It seems bullying children is a popular pastime for the local elite, but her victory lap is cut short as she bumps into Derek. Her arrogant expression instantly melts into pure terror. His eyes glow with a familiar dangerous light. A sword slams into the ground as Wallace arrives on the scene. He demands justice, furious that a commoner dared to touch one of his own. He threatens Reina, telling her to step aside or face the consequences. But Reina stands her ground, refusing to allow a fight in her village. She can't believe Derek is already causing this much trouble. She realizes Leon's warning about him was an understatement. Thomas tries to comfort Brandy as she clutches the stolen pelt. Wallace accepts the challenge, ready to put the commoner in his place. But Derek effortlessly catches his wrist, stopping the attack cold. He tosses the noble aside, telling him to take the woman and go. Derek announces to the crowd that he was leaving anyway. Thomas is stunned, unable to believe Derek is abandoning them. But Derek looks back with a smile, promising he'll return. He hands Thomas the clippers, telling him to practice while he's gone. With a final warning not to unlock his system, Derek walks away. Wallace gets to his feet, furious and not ready to let it go. But Derek cuts him off, surrounded by the noble's defeated guards. He gets close, making sure his next words are perfectly understood. If Wallace ever harms anyone from this village, Derek will kill him. The noble's men can only stare, paralyzed by his sheer presence. The villagers watch him go, a mix of awe and terror in their eyes. An aura of purple energy surrounds him, a testament to his power. Wallace, seething, orders one of his men to follow him. Derek walks into the forest, recalling an achievement Thomas mentioned. He knows he needs a high-level kill, and a hunter stalks him from the trees. The hunter draws his bow, knocking 3 arrows at once. He takes aim, confident his peasant target won't know what hit him. But Derek catches the arrows between 2 fingers without even turning around. He checks his system, realizing he needs to find a monster over level 112. His status screen shows he's only level 11, but with plenty of points to spend. His eyes narrow as the arrow flies toward his head. He reveals he's known about his tale for over an hour. He finally distributes his points, and the arrow bounces off harmlessly. The system rewards him with 2 new achievements, Jack of All and Meat Shield. He's thrilled to see he's also been granted 2 free skills. The hunter can only stare in disbelief as his attack completely fails. The hunter is stunned, unable to process how he could have missed. He dismisses it, assuming his target is just an oblivious fool. He lets another arrow fly, this one powered by pure confidence. But Derek casually deflects it without even breaking his stride. He finally turns, asking if the hunter minds, as he's a bit busy. The assassin can only stammer, his world completely upended. With his cover blown, he plants his feet, preparing to flee. He makes a desperate leap for the safety of the trees. He bounds through the forest, wondering what kind of monster he's chasing. He lands hoping he's finally managed to lose his pursuer, but Derek is already there, still debating his skill choices. The hunter scrambles away, his escape turning into a frantic chase. Derek keeps pace effortlessly, continuing his monologue on skill trees. The hunter grabs a branch, trying to put some distance between them. He lands, ready to make a final desperate stand. He unleashes a volley of arrows, a last-ditch effort. Derek just stands there, mocking him for shouting his attack name. The arrows slam into the tree, creating a massive explosion. The hunter catches his breath, hoping the attack finally landed. He stares into the smoke, praying his target is gone, but Derek is perched on a branch above, looking utterly bored. He explains he chose magic resistance, then delivers a swift counterattack. The hunter, now named Jeffrey, stumbles back toward the village gate. A guard calls out, shocked by his battered and broken state. Wallace grabs him, demanding to know if he succeeded. Jeffrey admits with his last breath that he couldn't even scratch him. Wallace's arrogant smirk melts into pure, unadulterated rage. He orders his men to pack their things and return to the capital. One of his soldiers asks if they are actually fleeing. Wallace corrects him with grim resolve. They're getting reinforcements. With his new mission clear, Derek tests out one of his new skills. He spends his time identifying rocks and trees, grinding experience, but his practice is interrupted by an unexpected forest creature, a level 54 horned rabbit, adorable yet surprisingly powerful. Derek crouches down, asking what it's doing in such a dangerous place. The rabbit just stares back, completely unimpressed by the conversation. He smiles, admitting he wouldn't harm it even if it met his level requirement. His kindness is immediately repaid with a horn to the face. Derek dodges, surprised by the fluffy creature's sudden aggression. He stumbles back, wondering what just happened. The rabbit misses its horn, now stuck firmly in a tree. It unleashes a beam of energy, clearly not a fan of being ignored. The creature lands, ready for another round of unprovoked violence. Its expression is one of pure, concentrated rage. This is personal now. Derek just smirks, finally accepting the challenge. The rabbit digs its feet in, preparing for a full-on assault. With a crack of his knuckles, Derek decides it's time to play. Another energy blast erupts from the tiny creature's horn. Derek weaves through the attacks with practiced ease. He easily catches the furious rabbit in midair. He holds the squirming creature, calling it a little daredevil. The rabbit responds by sinking its teeth into his hand. A system alert shows he's taken a whole 26 damage. He laughs it off, barely noticing the scratch. But then a cold realization washes over him. An attack like that would have been fatal for someone like Thomas. He looks down at the tiny furious monster in his hands. He gently places the rabbit back on the ground. With a wave, he leaves it be, deciding it's not worth the effort. The rabbit watches him go, its anger simmering into a silent vow of vengeance. Derek continues his journey, pondering which new skill to learn. He considers his options, a confident smile on his face. The system offers him 3 restorative skills to choose from. Life Leech would heal him in battle, a tempting choice for a lone fighter. But Rejuvenation offers a targeted heal, a more versatile option. He weighs the selfish choice against a more supportive one, and in a moment of uncharacteristic selflessness, he makes his decision. He chose the skill not for himself, but for the people he abandoned. The realization hits him hard, questioning his own selfish motives. After an eternity of solitude, he finally found people, only to run away. He grits his teeth, frustrated with his own ingrained cynicism. He tells himself it's for the best, that his presence is a danger, but his eyes betray a conflict he can no longer ignore. His self-reflection is rudely interrupted by a sudden painful impact. He stumbles back, wondering what in the world just attacked him. It's the horned rabbit from before, and it looks absolutely furious. The tiny creature unleashes another blast, clearly holding a grudge, but their little spat attracts some unwanted attention from the shadows. The rabbit, however, seems completely unfazed by the new threat. In a flash of violence, the wolf is taken down with shocking brutality. The blood-soaked rabbit hops over, shattering all of Derek's wildlife knowledge. He concludes this tiny monster is both a psychopath and an idiot. Sits there, a perfect blend of adorable and utterly terrifying. With a shrug, Derek decides to let his new homicidal companion tag along, and so an unlikely duo begins their journey through the corrupted forest. They make camp for the night, a brief moment of peace. But peace is overrated when you have a rabbit that doubles as a projectile. He rewards his new pet with a scratch, which it seems to tolerate with disdain. As night falls, the two rest by the fire, a strange but effective team. But the rabbit's bloodlust is apparently insatiable as it leaps back into action. The next morning, Derek stretches, ready to continue his journey. He calls out to his tiny homicidal companion to get a move on, but the rabbit just sits there, its journey apparently at an end. Derek turns, confused by its sudden refusal to follow. He looks back to see the creature hasn't moved an inch. He realizes this is as far as his furry little guide is willing to go. The rabbit stomps its foot, its expression one of pure stubborn defiance. With a wave, Derek wishes it well, admitting it's probably the toughest thing in the forest anyway. He accepts that their strange partnership was bound to end eventually. He tries to calm himself, pushing down the familiar feeling of being alone. A vision of the void reminds him that this solitude is a choice. He walks on, telling himself he is alone because he chooses to be. Deeper in the forest, a strange green orb pulses with corrupting energy. Derek spots the source of the blight and uses his identify skill. It's a level 100 dungeon, and it's in a state of extreme overflow. He knows he could find his target inside, but the risk is too great. The fear of being trapped again is more than enough to deter him. He decides to head back, hoping the nobles are gone by now. Calling the whole trip a waste, he turns to leave, but a monstrous ghoul erupts from the ground, blocking his path. Derek just smirks, offering a casual greeting to the undead horror. He identifies it as a level 115 acidic ghoul, exactly what he needed. He's been holding in his frustration for far too long. The beast roars, its own aggression matching his, and now he finally has something to take it all out on. The ghoul lunges forward, a blur of green and black energy. Derek meets its charge, his spear glowing with power. With a single powerful strike, he severs the creature's arm. He taunts the beast, unimpressed by its opening move, but his words are cut short as the arm regenerates in an instant. The ghoul's acidic spray melts through his clothes and cloak. It follows up with a massive sweeping strike of its own. Derek barely manages to shield himself with what's left of his gear. He dodges and weaves, now forced onto the back foot. He slides back, admitting the creature is tougher than he thought, but his expression hardens with a cold, familiar resolve. He summons his armor, deciding it's time to stop holding back. With a surge of power, he leaps in for a devastating counterattack. He moves like a blur, parrying the monster's furious strikes. The two forces meet, his spear holding back the ghoul's arm. He grits his teeth, refusing to give a single inch of ground. His eyes glow with void energy as he prepares his own attack. He unleashes a powerful beam of purple light directly at the beast. The blast slams into the ghoul's chest in a direct hit, but the monster retaliates, bringing its massive claw down upon him. Derek scoffs, unimpressed by its supposed high level. The acid melts his armor away, leaving him exposed once more. He questions if this is truly what passes for strength in this world. He channels his own power, the void answering his silent call. With a manic grin, he tells the beast not to make him laugh. The ghoul roars back, its tongue lashing out to meet his energy. The two powers collide in a cataclysmic explosion of purple light. The very forest is torn apart by the sheer force of the blast. Derek stands victorious as the system alerts come flooding in. He's gained multiple levels and a shiny new achievement. He stands alone in the wreckage, the battle finally over. The ground sizzles with acid, a final reminder of the fight. He sits down, lamenting the sorry state of his armor. He stores it away, unsure when he'll ever get it repaired. He removes his ruined shirt, regretting his lack of a travel wardrobe. He pulls out a spare tunic, clearly not a fan of the local fashion. 2 weeks pass in Raina's village since Derek's departure. Thomas concentrates, putting the finishing touches on his work. With a final swipe, he declares his masterpiece complete. He holds up the clippers Derek left him, a tool of his new trade. His first customer inspects the creative results in the mirror. He loves it, and Thomas is officially the village's new barber. He offers his services to Brandy, who seems less than thrilled. She gives him a look that could curdle milk, a clear and definite no. Thomas wisely decides to drop the subject immediately. He notices Brandy's mood and asks if something is wrong. She admits she's run out of the materials Derek provided. She's practiced all she can and needs more hides to continue. Thomas sympathizes, hoping Derek returns for his own big day. Brandy recalls his grandfather's attempt to help him unlock his system, but Thomas explains he's waiting for Derek just like he promised. He has faith his friend will find him the perfect first kill. Elsewhere, a cloaked figure arrives at the ruins of Leon's village. They step into the desolate remains of the settlement. A hand touches the ground, sensing the lingering void energy. The hunter confirms a void beast was here, just as the report said, but they also sense a second unfamiliar power signature. The trail of energy is faint but still traceable. It leads directly toward Raina's village, and the hunt begins. Meanwhile, Derek makes his way back from the dungeon's entrance. He knows clearing that place will be a monumental task, but he stops short, a look of surprise on his face. A familiar furry face is waiting for him on the path. The horned rabbit thumps its foot, its expression unchangingly furious. Derek can't help but smile at his tiny homicidal stalker. He asks if its persistence is a sign of affection or if it's just trying to kill him, which it immediately confirms. Derek scolds the creature, reminding it of his promise to Thomas. He warns that if it doesn't behave, it'll be the one on the menu. The tiny monster finally seems to understand the gravity of the situation. He lays down the law. Can tag along, but it's not welcome in the village. The rabbit's demonic glare suggests it doesn't take orders well. Derek lets out a sigh, clearly regretting this entire interaction. He sets it down, deciding to just get on with it. With a simple command, he leads his new homicidal shadow onward. He decides it's time to give his new companion a proper name. The creature seems surprisingly pleased by the idea. He cycles through a few generic names while they rest, but none of them seem to fit its unique personality, a personality that involves taking down monsters 5 levels above it. He tries a few more creative options, but nothing sticks. Then, in a flash of inspiration, he finds the perfect name. He kneels down ready to make it official. He names it Sylvie, a ghost from a life he can barely remember. With a new name and a new purpose, they continue their journey. A week later, they finally approach the village. Derek tells Sylvie this is where they part ways holding a small creature. He explains that her particular brand of chaos isn't welcome inside. He promises to return in a few days, leaving her to wait. He offers her a parting gift which she eyes with murderous intent. Derek has a rare moment of sentimentality with the tiny creature, which Sylvie immediately interrupts with a violent headbutt. He yells at the tiny psychopath as a tree comes crashing down. He holds up the level 50 chipmunk, now designated as Thomas's first kill. Finally free of his furry stalker, he waves to the guard on the wall. The guard calls out, demanding to know who approaches the gate. Derek tells him not to bother, preparing for a more dramatic entrance. He leaps over the wall in a single bound, stunning the guard. He lands perfectly on the rampart, much to the guard's surprise. As the man stumbles back, Derek catches his arm to steady him. He even compliments the man's haircut. Thomas's work is getting around. With another effortless leap, he drops down into the village proper. He calls out for Thomas, announcing his triumphant return. The boy skids to a halt, nearly crashing into a villager. He sprints off, his excitement overriding all else. Thomas and Brandy bombard him with updates on their progress. They both eagerly ask about the high-level creature he promised. Derek is overwhelmed by their energy, offering a strained nod. Thomas shoves Brandy aside, declaring his goal to be as strong as Derek. The two kids look up at him, holding their breath in anticipation. He sighs, amused by their endless stream of questions. He offers Brandy a knife and promises more hides for her leather working. He gives her a new goal, reach level 10 for a special project. He then turns to Thomas, asking if he's ready for his own challenge. A small squeak from his bag reveals the special gift he brought back. He tells the boy to meet him tomorrow to finally unlock his system. The two children celebrate, their excitement filling the air. But Derek holds up a finger, adding one final crucial condition. He asks if the village has a tavern. A hero has his priorities. He pushes open the door, ready for a well-deserved drink. He takes a deep breath, savoring the familiar smell of a pub. He walks in, hoping this world at least has decent beer. A small smile crosses his face as he feels right at home, but he bumps into a cloaked figure, caught off guard. As he touches their arm, he feels a familiar, dangerous energy. The hunter's eyes lock on, a targeting reticle confirming his mark. Derek asks who he is, sensing this stranger is no ordinary noble. The hunter reveals Derek is the source of the energy he's been tracking, but he realizes this man is not the void beast he was sent to find. Derek confirms this, and the hunter demands to know why he smells of the void. Annoyed, Derek plays dumb, hoping to avoid another scene. The hunter begins a rapid-fire interrogation, but Derek remains evasive. His patience worn thin, the hunter accuses him of lying. He reaches out, attempting to force an answer from the stranger, but Derek effortlessly catches his wrist, stopping him cold. The two men lock eyes in a silent, tense standoff. The hunter decides to get his answers another way. He activates his identify skill, a wave of data washing over Derek. But the system returns an error, leaving them both stunned. Well, that's embarrassing. Derek breaks the silence, asking if he can finally get that beer. He takes a seat at the bar as the bartender greets him by name. The hunter watches, realizing Derek must be the one who defeated the beast. He slips out the door as Derek orders a drink from the bartender. Derek breathes a sigh of relief, glad the confrontation is over, but his good mood sours when he realizes he has no money to pay. He offers a high-level pelt instead, and Bart's eyes light up. Just then, another figure steps into the tavern. Derek turns, wondering who could be looking for him now. It's Mallory, who says Brandy sent her with an offer. She invites him to stay with them for dinner as thanks. The two walk through the village, drinks in hand. Mallory asks about the hunter, but Derek brushes it off. She warns him that the man works for a group called the Crown. Derek takes a sip, assuming she means the kingdom's royal forces, but she explains the Crown is a powerful independent organization. She explains the Crown holds immense power and influence. Only the wealthiest are ever allowed to dine in their halls, and she asks if he knows their most prized delicacy. It's the meat of a void beast. Derek nearly chokes learning they eat his former pet. Consuming one grants incredible power, a ticket to the elite. He scoffs, assuming there must be weaker ones out there, but she reminds him how rare they are, born from the feared void. A memory of destruction flashes by, a testament to their power. Mallory's gaze is sharp, knowing he understands this all too well. Derek can't hide his unease, his secret now dangerously close. He plays it off and they continue their walk back home. They arrive at the house filled with the sounds of a family dinner. Derek enjoys a home-cooked meal for the first time in ages. He declares it's the best thing he's eaten in years. After Void Monster Jerky, that's not a high bar. Mallory humbly brushes it off, saying her cooking skill is low. Richard agrees, nearly earning a death glare from his wife. Thomas eagerly asks if he's still unlocking his system tomorrow. Derek confirms, as long as his grandparents give their blessing. The boy turns to them and they happily agree. Thomas erupts in celebration, his dream finally within reach. But Derek holds up a finger, adding one final condition. He just wants a warm bath after his long journey. Thomas sprints off, eager to prepare it for him. The adults share a laugh at the boy's boundless energy. Derek looks out the window, his reflection a ghost of his other self. A small poke from Brandy breaks him from his thoughts. She shyly reveals she has a gift for him. She offers a small leather charm, a token of her gratitude. She explains that working on it helped her cope with her father's loss. He accepts the gift, a genuine smile on his face. The house is filled with the warmth of family and conversation. For the first time in an eternity, he doesn't feel alone. It feels as if he's finally truly escaped the void. The next morning, he leaps from the wall with Thomas in tow. The boy clings on for dear life, a mix of terror and excitement. Derek lands perfectly, declaring this a good spot for a life-changing event. He sets the dizzy boy down, a serious look in his eyes. Thomas's face lights up, ready to finally unlock his potential. Derek hands him a finely crafted dagger, a tool for his first trial. He reaches into his bag, ready to reveal the boy's first target. With a smirk, he gives a simple chilling order, kill it. Thomas grips the blade, his resolve hardening for the task ahead. A pillar of light erupts as the system officially welcomes its newest user. Derek casually takes back the blade, asking how it feels to level up. The boy is stunned, having just killed a monster over level 50. Derek reveals the dagger is a masterpiece capable of the impossible. But before they go any further, he has one important question. He knows Thomas wants to leave to grow stronger than this village allows. He admits his own solitude is getting old and asks Thomas to join him. The boy can only stare, unable to believe the offer is real. His mind races with the possibilities of a grand adventure. He tries to play it cool, but his excitement is impossible to hide. Derek smiles but lays down the first of his conditions. Thomas swears to protect his secrets, perhaps a little too dramatically. The second rule, he must learn to rely on himself, not even on Derek. And the third most important rule, absolute unquestioning obedience. Thomas hesitates, the weight of that final promise sinking in. Derek reassures him he's not evil, just not exactly a good guy either. With his spirit reignited, Thomas accepts, ready for the journey ahead. With a firm handshake, Derek welcomes his new apprentice to the team. Their first training session begins with a simple question about skill points. Derek informs him he's about to lose most of them. So much for creative freedom. Thomas reluctantly follows orders, choosing his first two skills. Derek explains these boring skills are the key to survival, but Thomas can't help but feel underwhelmed by his new powers. Derek offers him one last point for something a bit more exciting. The boy wants to be a stealthy warrior, and Derek has the perfect skill in mind. With a single touch, Thomas locks in his choice. Derek then instructs him to dump all his stats into defense. The boy's hope for a piggyback ride is about to be shattered. Derek takes off in a flash, leaving Thomas in the dust. He declares it a race, and the boy's training has officially begun. Back at the house, Thomas collapses, completely exhausted from the run. Meanwhile, the village leaders discuss their grim situation. Reina knows that sending the wrong team would be a death sentence. Derek listens, his expression hardening with grim understanding. She reveals her plan, but he questions if it's nearly enough. He then reveals the dungeon he found is a staggering level 100. The news sends a wave of shock and disbelief through the room. Leon realizes their silver-ranked adventurers would be walking to their doom. They'll need gold-ranked heroes, and Derek asks for a map of the area. Thomas, ever the eager apprentice, sprints to retrieve it. Reina lays out the map explaining the known dungeon locations. A close-up reveals the details of a much weaker level 25 dungeon. Derek points to the forest, pinpointing the source of the corruption. He asks for permission to add his findings to their map. He marks the new threat, then asks to make a copy for himself. As he hands the copy over, he asks Reina a pointed question. He calls her out on her low level, and she explains it's due to her rare class. She explains her duties as chief leave no time for leveling up. Besides, their village's weapons are no match for stronger creatures. A close-up reveals a chipped and worn blade, a relic of past battles. But Derek tosses her a new sword, catching her completely off guard. He invites her to train with him and Thomas, much to the boy's surprise. If she agrees, the blade is hers to keep. Pretty sweet deal. She inspects the weapon, stunned by its incredible quality. With a nod of grim determination, she accepts his offer. Derek heads off, announcing he's going to see his new best friend, the bartender. Elsewhere, Wallace begs his father for reinforcements, but his father is unimpressed, questioning his son's petty crusade. He brings up the village's request for adventurers to solve a problem Wallace failed to handle. He refuses to be embarrassed again, ordering his son to fix his own mess. Wallace tries to argue, but his protest is cut short. With a single word, his father dismisses him from the room. Wallace can only grit his teeth, his pride completely shattered. He turns to leave, his humiliation burning with every step, but he stops, vowing that he will, in fact, deal with them.